Of the 3 people standing on stage, only 2 of them were people. But that was totally normal to Kelly, one of the people, along with Priya, her best friend and fellow robotics engineer, the other person. She looked out over the audience, filling the brightly lit demonstration room. A field trip of 50 or so kids, squirming and grouchy under the cloud of that early January gloom. The children were freshly reinstitutionalized after 2 halcyon weeks of holiday break, the feral spirit of pajama days and pumpkin pie breakfasts still smoldering in their eyes. And now, it was up to Kelly to win their wandering attention. "I'd like you to meet Zed," she began tentatively, gesturing to the robot standing beside her. He was one of the first projects she had worked on 5 years ago when she landed her coveted job at Automated Human Industries, AHI, the boutique cutting-edge robotics company. Zed made a modest impression at first glance, his body a 4-foot-tall construction of steel ligaments and exposed wires, his face a flat panel. "I know he looks pretty basic," she continued, trying and failing to eclipse the gleeful Pillsbury Doughboy noises issuing from 4 girls in the back as they took turns poking each other's stomachs. Kelly was not the most confident performer. This was a young woman who, when playing a tree in her 3rd-grade play, had gotten stage fright, despite not having any lines, and dramatically fled the theater, which had not been easy, seeing as her legs had been bound together in a trunk. But now her voice grew as she got excited, talking about her work. But at the point of his creation, Zed had a greater scope of motion capabilities than anything else on the market. He was our first build with our patented predictive stereo vision. A tinny ringing from the front row announced that a sandy-haired boy had just won a game on his contraband phone and threw Kelly off her flow. Robbie, one of her co-workers here at AHI, bustled over and extended a hand. "Phone," he commanded. The boy dutifully dropped his $1,000 smartphone into a red plastic bucket of other $1,000 smartphones, glass hitting metal with a thump. Robbie had jumped at the chance to play phone wrangler today, ensuring that even though none of the company's newest technology was on display, no junior spies filmed the program for their parents, 2/3 of whom probably worked at competing tech companies here in Silicon Valley. He clutched the bucket with a sort of protective satisfaction and retreated to his position on the sidelines, from which he watched the rows of children like a prison guard. Sometimes Kelly couldn't believe that she had dated him. She refocused. She was determined to get through to these students, or at least to half of them. Maybe one, just a small one. But so many were talking to each other that they could barely hear her. The whole detailed presentation she had perfected and rehearsed was falling apart in practice. "So, we started with something called stochastic mapping, which is, She faltered. Her eyes darted irresistibly toward the exit. She felt another fleeing tree moment coming on. "It's kind of easier if you see it first," Priya gently interrupted. "Who wants to see this guy in action?" "Yeah," a couple of the kids responded, sitting up. Kelly relaxed as she looked across at her friend, grateful for the intervention. Priya was better at this type of thing anyway. She could get a smile out of a statue. "Shall you do the honors, madam?" she asked now. "I shall, mademoiselle." Kelly clicked the remote in her hand and Zed beeped into life, his blue eyes blinking on. More of the children looked up, their attention caught. "So he can walk, of course." She pushed the mini joystick on the remote forward, and Zed took a few steps, his movements more fluid than his rough form seemed to indicate.